What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming.
Shut up and sit down.
What's up, Pixie Posse and wee little pixels all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G with Two Gun Pixie, your gateway to Legendary Gaming. Now, in today's episode of Midday Monologue Monday, I'm going to show you how to make a basic Dungeons & Dragons character. For our upcoming basic D&D game, Tom Vullo, our co-producer, co-founder, he wants to run a dwarf. Best way to do that, in basic, is to make several characters. You'll see what I mean. You can't just walk into it saying, I want to play a dwarf, I want to play a fighter. You'll see. So now, obviously, the first thing that you're going to need is you're going to have a copy, a hand copy, a PDF copy, some sort of copy of the basic rules. I prefer the Tom Mulvey basic rules. I think they're the best, but that's my personal opinion. But here we go. So now, once you have that, you're going to want to make sure that you have some dice. I got a bag full right here myself, a bloomin' onion, as I call it, of a dice bag. And, maybe, just maybe, you might want to have yourself a dice tray or a dice tower to roll those. But you don't need them. You don't need them at all. That's just bling. That's just extra for you. But you are going to need, 100%, you're going to need a pencil. And you're going to need an index card, a piece of paper, or you're going to have to copy out a character sheet. And make sure, there's a lot of different versions of D&D, so make sure that you do have an actual basic D&D sheet for the edition that you are going to be playing the game. Now, once you get all this ready to go, you're just going to grab some dice. How many? 3. 3 six-sided dice is what you're going to need to do. And you're going to be using these dice. You're going to roll them one at a time for each of your ability scores. Each of the ability scores, and in basic game, the ability scores are in this order. It's strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Now, you're going to roll 3d6 one time for each of these abilities. You're going to record in order what these are. So the very first roll will be for your strength. The next for your intelligence, wisdom, etc. Now, this is going to be important because knowing your stats and having them out in front of you is going to help you determine what class that you can play in basic Dungeons & Dragons. You don't get to choose right up front. What you roll is what you are fated to be, or what you are fated you could be, because there's usually a couple of different options that you can have. The fighters, for example, strong combatants, high hit points, they use armor and weapons. Clerics, they fight undead, cast divine spells from second level up, and they use armor like a fighter, but not an edged weapon. Magic users are there to cast arcane spells. Their combat is limited to daggers and staffs, and they don't get to wear armor. A thief, they are skilled in stealth and stealing, quite obviously. They're very good at backstabbing. They have a limited use and choice of weapons and armor. The dwarf is fighter-like. They have infravision, which lets them see heat outlines and patterns in darkness. And they're very good at detecting traps and sloping passages that are going to be found in the dungeons. And they tend to have rather high hit points. Elves are a combination of fighter magic users. They're a bit of a hybrid class. Like the dwarves, they also have infravision, and they're immune to the paralytic touch that ghouls can deliver to players when attacking them. They do get to cast spells. Halflings? These are like hobbits. They're small, they're stealthy, they have some combat bonuses against larger combatants, and they're restricted to small weapons and light armor. And they have some thief-like abilities and qualities. Now, each of these classes is going to have specific requirements based on the ability scores. So matching up what your ability scores are to what classes are available is how you're going to determine which class you can choose from. Now, there is such an idea or concept of a useless character, a hopeless character, one whose ability scores are too low to really be worthwhile to play. If that's the case, just re-roll. You're starting over 100%. Now, I also want to say right now that when you are creating a basic Dungeons & Dragons character, you should create a minimum of 3. Your first time out, your first level characters, create 3. Roll up 3 random characters. Why? The game can be a little deadly. And this way it ensures that if something does happen to one of your characters, that you have another one on hand that you can bring right into the party, right into the group, deep dive into the adventure. Hit points. That's what's going to come next. After you've determined your class from rolling your ability scores, each class has a separate die that it is going to use that you are going to roll to determine your hit points. Hit points represent your ability to survive encounters. They're not necessarily health. It's not necessarily blood. It's not that at all. It really is sort of like your chances of evading a lot of damage. And when it gets down to 0, you haven't evaded anything, and that's why it's over and you've been made unalive. But yes, roll for your hit points now that you know your class. Alignment. This is highly important in the game. Alignment determines your character's choices. In a sense, it does limit you to what your character can choose to do, but it does so within certain parameters that makes it all realistic. Your character is either going to be one of 3, lawful, neutral, or chaotic. Let's take a quick look at what each of these alignments represent. Lawful, or law. This is a belief that everything should follow an order and that obeying rules is the natural way of life. Lawful creatures will try to tell the truth, obey laws, and care about all living things. Lawful characters always try to keep their promises. They will try to obey laws as long as such laws are fair and just. Chaos, or chaotic, is the opposite of law. It is the belief that life is random and that chance and luck rule the world. Everything happens by accident and nothing can be predicted. Laws are made to be broken as long as the person can get away with it. It is not important to keep promises, and lying and telling the truth are both useful tools. Neutrality, or neutral, is the belief that the world is a balance between law and chaos. It is important that neither side get too much power and upset that balance. The individual is important, but so is the group. The 2 sides must work together. You can see why this is so important, how you are going to act. This gives you a skeleton, a base work to create your character's personality about. Now, after you have your ability scores, you know your class, your hit points, and your alignment, it's time to get you some gear. So otherwise, I don't know how you're going to survive out there. In order to get this gear, you're going to have to buy it. And that's going to cost some gold coin. So starting characters are all going to be rolling 3 6-sided dice, just like you did for your ability scores. You're going to add up those dice and then multiply that total by 10. This is how many gold pieces that you're going to have to spend on the equipment list. Now remember, consult your character class. Certain character classes can only use certain weapons and certain types of armor, and some can't use any armor at all. Now that you have your equipment, you got to figure out how hard it is for you to get hit in combat. In other words, what is your armor class rating? So the armor class rating is going to be determined primarily by what kind of armor you have, armor and or shield. This is listed in the equipment section. Now also, according to your dexterity score, if you look at the beginning of the rule book, you'll see under the ability score section, it will show that for high dexterities, you will get a bonus to your armor class. And this represents the fact that you are a lot more lithe and dodging in the middle of combat. Now, page 26 of the basic rule book is where you're going to find your saving throws. Saving throws are really important because there are certain times in the game where something is going to affect you. Poison, dragon's breath, a spell, something is going to affect you that has nothing to do with your armor class. And in this case, you're going to have to make a saving throw roll. And this tells you the score that you're going to need in order to survive that attack. Or in some cases, maybe take partial damage. Next, let's take a look at what your class abilities are. For clerics and fighters, it's pretty straightforward. Now, if you're dealing with an elf or a magic user, you have spells to deal with. Spells are going to grant you abilities that you can do during the game. At first level, you're only going to be able to cast one spell a day, so you're going to want to choose that spell very carefully. There are 6 first level spells to choose from. Alternately, if you want to have show a little guts, have little balls, you could roll a 6-sided die and randomly find out what spell you have. But be careful, a first level magic user that can only read magic is not going to be very helpful to the party. So be careful with that. Now, with the thieves have a lot of skills. Skills aren't represented with other classes, but skills definitely are with thieves. And that's because you're going to have to need to know how good you are at climbing walls, picking pockets, or opening locks. And this is going to give you a representation of that. And on the chart, you can see by level how it's going to be affected. Make sure that you make note of special things, such as the dwarf's infravision at 60 feet, the ability to detect traps and sloping walls with a 2 in 6 chance. The elf also has infravision, is immune to ghoul paralysis, and can cast spells like a magic user. And don't forget the halfling gets a +1 hit with missile weapons and a +2 armor class against larger creatures, and has a 90% chance to hide when outdoors. Now that you have all the technical stuff, you get the chance to give the character a fun name, a powerful name, a name that means something to you, a name that's going to stand out. Yeah, this is a first level basic character. It might end up dying first step into the dungeon, but if it doesn't, you're going to want a memorable name for that character. Now, after you have all this recorded, the last thing you have to do is just check with your DM. And that's if you weren't making it right there on the spot at the table during game day. These basic characters, you can see, are very quick and easy to make. On the fly, even if you don't have a backup character and your character kicks the dust, you'll be able to roll up a new character very quickly in this game. But always make sure that the DM sees your character sheet, front and back, every detail on it, before it's okay to play the game. And there you go. Now we're going to see if we can roll up Tom, or at least see how long it takes us to roll up Tom, a dwarf. And he wants to be chaotic. Tom Vullo is always fun at the table, folks. Thank you very much for watching this. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie, your gateway to legendary gaming. And I am out of here.